Good afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you and let you know that we'll be getting started in just about 2 minutes. In that time, you can grab a piece of paper and something to write with, as we will be using them later in the presentation. And we look forward to starting in 2 minutes. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday and welcome to our webinar, Active Movement and Learning in the VPK Classroom. We're happy that you've chosen to spend the next hour and a half with us today on this topic. So let's begin with your presenters today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Guerrero Arroyo, and I am a Quality and Education Coaching Specialist at the ELC of Broward. I have been in the field of early childhood for over 10 years. So here's a pic of myself at the ELC conference of 2019, getting ready to present with my colleague of today, Stephanie.
Based on the same topic.
Exactly, on the same topic. That's true. We had so many materials that day. My greatest joy is spending time with my husband and my family. We have been married for over 14 years and we have 2 chunky cats. So here's a little pic of him and I. And my favorite place to vacation in the whole wide world is Disney. So here's a picture of my family and I at the Star Wars Land at Hollywood Studios. And I can't wait to go back. So tell us a little bit about you, Stephanie.
Sure. So here you can see that I've taught 4- and 5-year-old in the 4- and 5-year-old classroom while I was up in New York City. And in that time, I've also held various leadership roles throughout my career in education. Currently, I'm very proud to be a quality and education coaching specialist in the education department of the ELC. Additionally, in my family, I have 2 cats myself, Rocky and DiMaggio, and clearly a toddler, as you can see by the toys thrown around the floor. And my favorite place to vacation is definitely Key Largo. It's nice and close, and hopefully I'll be able to get there sooner rather than later.
I agree. That's a great picture, by the way.
Thank you. I took it with my cell phone. It came out so nice. All right, everyone. So we're going to go over certificates real quick. Remember, all ELC Broward trainings are for in-service hours only. So, and your training certificate is going to be emailed within 24 hours and sent to the email address that you entered at registration. So in order to be marked attended, you must log on to the computer or download the GoToWebinar app on your phone to participate. So just calling in the number doesn't register your attendance and you will not receive a certificate or be marked as attended. So if you can't see us on the screen, we can't see you. And now we're going to do a little housekeeping in case you're new to GoToWebinar and haven't joined us before. So first of all, you'll notice on your screen, you'll have an orange rectangle with a white triangle that will open your main control panel for GoToWebinar. It has multiple different areas within. And you can see one of the areas that we have are handouts. We've supplied you with 4 different handouts today. Just click on the PDF link and save it to your computer. And we also have a questions box right here. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to place them in there and during our discussions as well. So we'd like to be sure that we are practicing what we are preaching and discussing today. So we're going to start off with an icebreaker. But before we do, in the chat box, we'd like to know, how are you feeling right now? Do you feel energized, tired? What are you feeling right now physically? Oh, we have some people feeling tired. Absolutely. Being in preschool is exhausting. Oh, happy. It's good to hear. Oh, we have a lot of positivity of happy people and a mix of tired people. Excited. Oh, wow, we're in a good place for Thursday afternoon. That's great. All right. So now what we're going to do is watch a quick video for our icebreaker, and please follow along with the video. We promise you that Gretel and myself will be following along with you. So here comes our first video. Here we go. All right, so that was just a little bit of stretching just to get a good feeling about how we are ready to start the day. So how do you feel now, Gretel, after stretching a little bit?
I loved it. That side stretch where you get to hold the side of the chair.
That's
Oh,
my
that
favorite.
yes. I had a lot of tension on my back, so that definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah, and I learned a new word for that muscle, that trapezius muscle. So let's ask our participants, after stretching, how are you guys feeling now? Especially those tired ones. Are you feeling a little bit different in any way?
We have a great question here. Can we send you the video?
That
We'll try.
is a great question.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe we could put the link
here,
up in the chat.
yeah. I think at the end of the webinar, we'll do that. We'll put the link up for the video. Thank you. Oh, let's see. We got some feedback. We're feeling more relaxed, way better, and feeling good about our afternoon. So that's great. We're really happy that you joined us in that activity. So now we're going to review the training objectives with Gretel.
Thank you. So as I review the training objectives for today, we recommend that you write down a learning goal that is specific to yourself and to your classroom. So it's either a learning objective for the center of your director, or if you are a teacher, a specific goal that you have in this domain for your classroom. And if you are comfortable with sharing that goal with us, please go ahead and put that in the question box as well. So the training objectives for today are for educators to be able to learn how physical development affects the academic success of children. We want to be able to understand and describe that physical development domain and its components as per the Florida standards. And lastly, how do we apply this? What are the best practices, and in turn be able to apply them in the daily routine in the classroom? So now, as we get ready to understand better physical development and active play in the classroom, we're going to watch this video that is it's excellent. It helps us understand this topic better as well. It's called Encouraging Physical Activities in Preschoolers. So as you watch this video, please write down what stands out to you, or what activities would you like to try in your classroom. So a lot of great strategies and techniques that they used in the video. We're very grateful to the Eastern Connecticut State of University that provided this video. So I want you to please take a minute and add to the question box what stood out to you. Was there any particular activity that you saw the teachers do, or anything that they explained that you would like to try in your classroom? That
Eh,
anything that stood out to you?
Well, yes, me and Anna, both from the chat box, we really love the paper plate idea. It's so simple and so easy. And I wish I thought of it when I was a teacher. That was definitely something I would love to add into my transitions.
Yes, I agree. I love the little boy twirls, or he does like that turn. He brings in his own spin to it.
Yes. And I also love that dramatic play area and the idea of turning a dramatic play area into a physical place too, a physical movement activity area. So I thought that was pretty clever too.
Yeah, and then they added the mirror. They added the mirror so the children can see themselves as they're trying to do these movements. So that's great. And then it also helps with like even vocabulary and other giving them the way to see what they're doing and giving vocabulary to the movements.
Absolutely. So there's so many things happening within those few activities that we saw in those videos.
Yes. So now we're going to move on to that number one factor they talked about in the video, which is safety. So when planning and preparing for physical and active play, safety is the first and most important factor to take into consideration. To prevent injury during physical activity, the center staff has to take a proactive look at the children's abilities, the physical environment inside the classroom and in the playground, and if the skills that are going to be practiced are safe and appropriate for that child or the classroom. Safety in active play is also important for the child's development, as they may be less likely to try new things and take risks after trying something and getting hurt. A good center motto to have is safety is everyone's responsibility. So we want to know, what do you think? Do you think that playground rules should be made with the children? So you're going to see three options to poll. So do you think that yes, children should be involved in creating the class rules, even in the playground? Or no, the adult should determine the rules of the playground? Or three, sometimes it depends on the group of the kids. We'll give you a moment to answer the poll.
All right, we have about 25% voted. If you're having trouble voting on the poll, sometimes you have to minimize the window. If it's maximized on your screen, it won't let you make a selection. But if you minimize that poll, then you are able to make a selection. Okay, we're going to give it about 10 more seconds, Gretel, to get all our votes in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're going to close that poll and share the results out.
Okay, look at great results. Okay, so we have 66% of you said yes. Children should be involved in creating class rules in the playground as well. 17% said you know, the adult should determine the rules of the playground. And 17% depends, sometimes it depends on the group of the kids. Now, planning playground rules for the children makes the expectations of their behavior more clear, and it also helps to reduce injury. The rules are clearly explained and modeled. So they're explained, they're discussed together, and they're modeled for the children. It becomes clear to them what are their limitations, helping them to build the skills they need both in the playground and as they get older and into their life. Inviting children to become part of the process of planning playground rules helps them to feel ownership of the playground and confident to play safely. So we put together a list of 6 items that are going to help promote safety in the playground and at your center. So the first thing we want to look at is a playground safety checklist. This is a proactive way to avoid accidents in the playground. They can help you to look for hazardous areas that you might have become blind to throughout your time at the center. It is recommended that you complete the playground safety checklist every day before the children go out to the playground. As I mentioned before, safety is everyone's responsibility. So therefore, this can be something that can be accomplished by any staff member of the center. Number two, you want to go ahead and plan and model the playground rules with the children. So for example, when planning the rule on how to slide down the slide, how to slide down the slide properly, it is important to model that behavior for the children and to teach the procedure step by step. So what does that mean? You're teaching them how to go up the stairs, through the tunnel, sit down, slide. So you're going to teach them that procedure step by step. The consistency of implementing these rules will help to create an accident-free environment. Number three, be prepared. Have your first aid well stocked and readily available, or other important items such as water, sunscreen, or even a whistle if you need to call someone's attention quickly. Number four, be observant of the children. Keep a watchful eye on them. By knowing your children's limitations, you can help prevent a child from hurting themselves. Number five, have a safe environment and safe equipment. This is where the playground safety checklist comes in handy because it can help you catch broken equipment or unsafe areas in the playground that are unsafe before a child or an adult gets hurt. And number six, safe activity will have safe skills. Practice skills with the children that are appropriate for their age and abilities. Think the whole activity through from beginning to end and think, how will my children react to this skill? It is okay if the skill's too hard or if it's not appropriate for your children, that is something that they don't have to do yet. Okay,
Thank
now
you
we're
for
gonna
preparing us for getting ready to add more movement and to the playground inside the classroom. And I agree, always be prepared, have that first aid, water bottle, sunscreen, and whistle with you. We used to keep it in a little red safety bag that we would bring out to the classroom with us. So now we're going to ask a question and think about, oh, first I have a pop quiz. Does anybody recognize these symbols within this image? Pop quiz. Gretel, do you recognize these symbols?
I definitely do recognize these symbols.
Yes.
I don't
Me
want to
also.
give away the answers, but yes.
Oh, we have some other people too. Yeah, they're very familiar. Domain standards. From the standards, we have some wonderfully smart people who are very comfortable with their standards because they got my pop quiz. So now we're going to talk about the connection between physical activity and the other learning domains. And there are so many different ways you can work on skills in the physical domain while working on other learning skills from the standards. And we will highlight some of these examples later in the presentation. But first, we're going to discuss what happens to our bodies and our brains when we are physically active. So what is some connections that we see? Well, our mental activity increases. So keeping the body active promotes mental clarity by increasing the blood flow to the brain, which positively affects the cognitive development, physical health, and your overall mental well-being. What other positive effects do we see? On children's cognition, we see areas of memory, attention, problem solving, and general information processing being really activated during movement. And then also we see developing abilities that we're trying to develop within our students. Participation in physical activities develops the children's ability to listen, to follow directions, to wait their turn, and to react appropriately to situations, and to support self-regulation skills. So we can even see adding movement already supports the social emotional domain as well, and some of the standards that you'll find in there. The next slide is a great to apply to your own life inside the classroom or outside. So sitting makes us tired, and physical activity feeds the brain and optimizes performance. We can see at this visual that after some physical activity, there are a lot of cellular and molecular changes happening in that brain. There's a lot of brain activity, which positively affects your behavior and your social emotional health, as well as gets you thinking. It gets that cognitive process moving and moving and moving. And I have a question to pose is, what happens if we don't move? What happens if we don't let our children move? Well, here is a little diagram that we have. I love this visual image. On the left, you can see there were children who sat quietly before taking an exam test, and there were half the group were able to take a walk before the same test. So they both got to take the same test, and they had their brain scanned. So you can see the different activity versus a passive activity and a physical activity at the very beginning. So just think which child's brain is ready to learn and retain information, and all after a simple 20-minute walk. So just think of all the information that your little ones can retain when you add just a little bit of physical movement to their day. And here we have another great slide here that talks about knowledge retention, because knowledge retention differs depending on the way in which material is learned, but all types of active learning actually show a higher retention rate than any traditional form of learning. Like, for example, showing flashcards and saying their names, you'll have about a 50% learning retention rate of what the children need to learn. But how could you add activity movement to the letters, such as jumping to specific letters, which will help bring that 50% up to maybe a 70 or 90% of retention? Greta, what do you think about this chart?
I think this chart is incredible in how it helps us to see exactly what have we been effective with. So if you see on the red, it says the passive learning is when it's reading, hearing, viewing images, watching a demonstration. And then once it goes down into that green, it's participating, hands-on, designing, simulating, even teaching, right? And so it reminds me back of when I was a VPK teacher, and there were so many activities now thinking back and reflecting that I could have involved a lot more of that active learning, and my children could have walked away instead of getting just 50% of it, they could have gotten 70 or 80, or be able to retain more of it. So I think it's a great visual.
I think that's a great reflection for you to have also. As in my case, I think I'm a little bit different because in my preschool, we actually had a physical gymnastics gym portion. So our motto kind of in our school was active learning is key. But I think with reflecting on this also, I don't believe I ever gave my students much choices in the active movements that I gave them. So looking at this and knowing that the active learning was being beneficial, but I wasn't hitting all of their needs by not letting them choose different ways to move. So that's something I definitely can reflect on myself.
That's a great reflection. Thank you.
So now every time I go into a classroom to talk about a schedule or talk to a director, all I hear is there is no time for movement. But however, sitting does not always equal learning. Yes, there are times to sit, but that should be the exception and not the expectation for every day. Because we all know this is not the optimal way for children to learn. We know that children learn best by doing and exploring in a hands-on physical way.
Thank you, Steph, for helping us to see the connection between active learning and the other learning domains. Now we're going to explore the physical development domain as per the Florida Standard for 4-year-olds. Now we're going to take a deeper look into the individual components, the standards, and the benchmarks as per the standards. Please note the website on the screen so you can have a direct access to the standards. If time permitting, we will take a brief tour at the end of this webinar. So now we wanted to explain all this standard jargon to you because physical development includes all of these. So what is a domain? A domain is the area of development. They are identified with a capital Roman numeral. What is a component? A component, each domain is separated into components. They represent the major topics to be addressed within the age range. They are identified with capital letters. Then there are subcomponents. These are areas of development within the component that address different topics concerning that component. They are identified with a lowercase letter. What is the standard? A standard is the expectation what a child on a developmental progression should know and be able to do by the end of each age range. So in the case of VPK, all the standards are things you're looking forward to the children learning by the end of the VPK year. These are identified by a numeral number. What is a benchmark? Benchmarks are more precise than a standard. They are set to reflect the level of skill and knowledge a child should demonstrate at the end of each age range. And the purpose of all this and the purpose of the standards is to assist educators in planning instruction and establishing goals for the children. So let's take a closer look at the components, subcomponents, standards, and benchmarks of the physical development domain. So during their first 5 years, young children undergo more rapid and dramatic changes in their physical development than any other time in their lives. Changes in body proportion, coordination, and strength occur, as does increasingly complex brain development, like we were discussing a few slides before. Children develop remarkable physical, motor, and sensory capabilities that enhance exploration and mastery of the environment. So the first component that we're going to be looking at today is health and well-being. So health and well-being has 4 subcomponents. The first one is active physical play. And this goal is for the children to engage in physical activities with increasing balance, coordination, endurance, and intensity. So how can we accomplish that in the classroom or even in the playground? You want to go ahead and provide daily structured and unstructured physical activities such as obstacle courses, dancing to music, a class walk, and we're going to be talking about many other activities throughout our presentation today. Safety is the second subcomponent. We want children to be able to show awareness of safety and increasingly demonstrate knowledge of safe choices and risk assessment when participating in daily activities. And you do these through creating the rules with the children. You also want to set clear and concise expectations of behavior and classroom routines. This one has 2 benchmarks, and they're all very specific to safety. The third subcomponent is personal care routines. We want children to be able to respond to and initiate care routines that support personal hygiene. So how can you accomplish this? You want to provide opportunities for children to select their own personal hygiene. So for example, selecting a toothbrush or a toothpaste or their own washcloth. And you want to give them the opportunity to explore all these personal hygiene procedures on their own. And the last subcomponent for health and well-being is feeding and nutrition. We want the children to be able to respond to feeding or feed themselves with increasing efficiency and demonstrate increasing interest in eating habits and making food choices. So we could do this by planning and providing opportunities for children to help prepare or sample healthy and nutritious food. Or you can even use involve children in creating charts and collages and bulletin boards in comparing healthy foods to non-healthy foods and get them talking about them. So we put together a couple ideas to help increase that health and well-being in the classroom. The first one is my favorite. It's just dancing. Just put on some music. You can even ask the child, what song do you guys want to dance to? And let them just get the wiggles out and dance and have some fun. You can also include games, group games, like Duck, Duck, Goose, and have them learn how to take turns. There's so many so many goals that they are reaching through this game. And then you also want to regularly review those playground rules. Whatever they may be, you want to go ahead and always use that same vocabulary so the children are aware of the consistent of the rule they are supposed to follow. Another great idea is converting that dramatic play center to a dentist office. And you want to incorporate again the children's ideas and ask them, hey, you guys want to turn, you want to make a dentist office? What do we need? And start a brainstorm, and that creates a great activity for the children. You also want to get them to sample healthy fruits and veggies. Children are more willing to try new foods if they're able to manipulate them and touch them and open them. And lastly, another great idea is just plant a garden. Planting a garden has a lot of great benefits. It also creates a lot of social emotional skills for the children as they have fun with one another and learning about the scientific method of how a plant grows. So now we're going to move on to motor development. Steph, can you check if you're muted?
Thank you, Gretel. I was muted. Let's continue on with motor development.
That's okay.
Happens to us all at one point.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to look at the first standard for motor development here, and our subcomponent is gross motor development, and we're looking for children to use and demonstrate the use of their large muscles for movement, position, strength, and coordination. So you can tape blocks onto the floor or use large sturdy blocks for balancing. You can use chalk for long distance jumping, incorporate measurements. Additionally, you can also play a lot of group games that involve throwing and catching a ball. You might have to encourage those children who are less likely to choose those activities so they all get an equal opportunity. And then, of course, you want to provide a variety of materials such as bikes, balls, parachutes, beanbags, jumping ropes, hula hoops, etc., to get your children encouraged to move. So let's take a look at our next standard and subcomponent. And we have a second standard here, which is demonstrates the use of large muscles to move in the environment. So we're looking for children to play catch and toss with a beanbag during circle time activities, provided them opportunities to kick a ball or maneuver through an obstacle course. So really, how do they use their large muscles within the environment that they're in? And then we have a second subcomponent, which is gross motor perception, which is just really sensory motory, understanding your place in space. So we're looking for children to be able to warn friends when they're too close playing with like a jump rope or a hula hoop. Oh. And then additionally, we are looking for children to play different games, such as like the robot game, where children get to pretend to be a robot and you give them directions such as turn left or stop at the door or turn right. And then we have our final subcomponent, which is fine motor development, which demonstrates the increasing precision, strength, coordination, efficiency while using hand muscles to play or do a functional task or perform a functional task. So we develop from the inside all the way out. So our fingers and our hands are the last things to develop. So we want to be sure we're giving our children plenty of opportunities to encourage them to draw write, giving them various size art tools, and planning age-appropriate activities on a regular basis. And we want to also be sure that we could increase their coordination of hand and eye movements with a variety of actions with precision. So within our second standard, there are many activities that we can do, such as build things with small linking blocks or provide small objects to sort and handle, or beading as such as in this picture here. And then we can also encourage our children to write their names, write numbers 1 through 5, which is found in the standards, provide a variety of writing materials such as in the learning centers as well as in the writing center, and plan daily opportunities for your children to use scissors. And finally, for their benchmark C, we want to really encourage the children to cut continuously on a line and develop skills by zipping, snapping, buttoning, by providing different clothing in the dramatic play area, or encouraging to pour their own cup of water, as you can see in this slide. So I love this saying right here that teachers can orchestrate engaging activities aligned to learning targets that involve movement. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's get into some activities. So now that we know what the standards of the physical domain are and what they look like, we're now going to illustrate different ways of how it can be incorporated into different domains. We will now be focusing on activities that are physical and that can be aligned with literacy and math domains specifically. But before we switch to slide, I have a question for you. What do you think the teacher's objective is in this activity? What do you think she's doing? And what do you think she's trying to accomplish? You can type that right into the chat box. Give everyone a minute to think about some answers. And as a hint, I think they are playing Simon Says. So Gretel, why do you think they're playing Simon Says?
So just by looking at the image, I can see that they're doing gross motor perception. And in gross motor perception, I love that quote that you just said, understanding their place in space. And that's a great strategy to help the children learn that space, that individual space that they have versus their partner next to them. So let's see what our...
Absolutely. We have some other great answers over here. Stretching, coordination, getting all the children on the same page while listening with music, getting them stimulated, controlling and refocusing the group, following along with movement, focusing on their listening skills, giving them a lot of movement, following directions. So you can see that even in a simple game, there are so many different skills that we are working on while we move with our children. So now we're working on concepts physically, so our students can really understand what words such as high, low, heavy, light actually feel like in their body and actively experience these new skills. Just think of how their vocabulary acquisition will change if not only do they learn the definition of a verb, but they feel it in the moment, which activates additional senses. And there are so many things that teachers are currently doing in the classroom that combine language and literacy domain to each other to support developing skills in both areas. So we're going to review some of the traditional activities and games that are absolutely a staple of preschool for a reason. And then we're also going to talk about some ways to switch things up and keep it interesting and engaging for your students. So first off, we're going to talk about literacy and movement. So now we'll take a look at some physical activities that support the literacy and language domain, and ways teachers can encourage both physical and literacy skills and activities such as positional word group game. I love this idea. You take a box, a large box where the children can explore all these different words by going inside the box, outside the box, looking under the box, standing next to the box. You can also do this with a bean bag, and if you don't have a box, you can do it on it with a chair, but giving them not just understanding with a piece of paper what looks like under and what looks like on top, but actually letting them experience what is on top and what is under feel and look like. And then we also have the opposite game, which, you know, we want to have our children feel what high is compared to low and have them move fast and have them move slow. We can also hand out different pairs of opposite cards and have the children find their opposite partner and then do the motions together to get them understanding this concept of opposites. Additionally, we have active listening, songs, and games, which gets the children's large muscles moving, as well as some other skills. Well, first of all, we're going to talk about Simon Says. And I have to say, Simon Says has been around for a very long time, but like we started off in the beginning, it has so many skills that you identified that it can be worked on. So it's also great to vary it up. I have to say, when I was a teacher, my Simon Says, my movements probably ended at about 7 movements, and then I was out of creativity. But they have wonderful lists and wonderful visual cards now to keep Simon Says fresh, because it really is a really classic game, but a really strong game for literacy. Additionally, talking about that, we want to make sure that we want to talk about the concept of being out. So in Simon Says, when the first children get out, usually those are the children who need to work on these skills the most. So maybe think about being creative and adjusting. Maybe any child who is out just stands at the back but still gets to participate, so they can still work on these skills. And another great game to get those large muscles moving is Zookeeper May I. And how you play Zookeeper May I is you have a child stand about 6 feet in front of the remaining children, and the zookeeper, the child, provides directions to the other children, such as take 3 elephant steps or take 1 kangaroo hop, take 2 alligator glides, and so on. So once the children reach the zookeeper then chooses a new child to be their successor. So that's another fun game, sort of a play on Mother May I or in the red light, green light. And then there's also a great alphabet song by Jack Hartman that gets the kids moving to letters with physical movements. And then also we can play games with parts of our body. You can have the children for comprehension, you can ask them to put 2 body parts on the ground. Typically, they'll put their feet on the ground. Then you can say, all right, put 3 body parts on the ground. And then instantly, you're going to get assessment back, and you're going to see what children understand what you're asking them to do and understand the concept of 3 and have the skills to do it. And you're going to see what children are struggling with that skill. So you get in the moment feedback with a lot of these activities. And then finally, we have stand up, sit down, questions and answers to work on active listening, vocabulary, and listening to understanding with getting in the moment of assessment of skills, like I was saying. So what we have the children do, if the answer is yes, the child stands up. And if the answer is no, the child sits down. This is good to use during any type of day. You can do it during circle time with a question of the day. You can ask questions during a transition time, or you can use this for story time and ask questions about the book and the story, such as what character in the story, was there a character in the story that was a duck? Yes or no? They stand up or they sit down. Or you can do them way more general and say, are you wearing blue today? Stand up or sit down. So those are just some simple activities to get literacy active in vocabulary and listening and understanding. Next, we're going to talk about emergent literacy and adding movement to emergent literacy. And our first activity that we have for you today is called a story walk. Now, a story walk is a great way to get the children moving and get them working with books and handling books. Have them be familiar with the book first, and you can take photocopies of the book and place it in different places outside and encourage the children to follow along and sequence the story together and retell the story as they walk through. So they are having that walking experience, so they're stimulating their mind even more, and they're retelling the experience of the book and re-experiencing the book in a new way. And then something we always used to play with in my school is letter charades. It's always really fun. You can give the children different letter cards, or they can choose their own letters that they'd like to make. You can do it with partners, but now since, with COVID-19, you can always have the child just try it by themselves. And it's really interesting how they'll continue to twist and contort their way in their body to make that letter B. And then also you can bring it down to your fine motor skills and give them pipe cleaners and have them make their own letters of their choosing using pipe cleaners too. Another great activity to bring outside to get physical with letters is having a letter hunt. You can encourage the children to go find letters of their name or give them a sound and have them try to find the letter that makes that sound, or have a letter match, have the uppercase letters and the lowercase letters. So there's a lot of variations on letter scavenger hunts outside to get the children really moving in a different way while learning their letters. And we also have jumping from different letters. This is another fun, simple activity. You just draw different letters onto a flat surface like pavement or cement, and you can have the children jump to different letters. You can have them jump to the letters that they know. You can prompt them to jump to new letters, or you can prompt them to try to spell their name. So there's lots of different ways you can get them to interact with letters that don't have to just involve call and response and flashcards. And then we also want to make sure we're acting out those action words so the children really understand the definition of what action words are. And also, it's always fun to act out a favorite story as well, to really get them physically involved with the plot and understanding and the comprehension. So those are some activities for our emergent literacy area of language and literacy domain. And then finally, we have skills for emergent writing. First of all, we don't want to forget about finger plays. Finger plays are wonderful to get those fingers moving, and they connect your movements to your language. Also, we really like catching scarves. It's great for your hand-eye coordination, which you also need for your emergent writing skills. And something that we used to do in my class a lot was skywriting, especially if we were introducing a new letter or a new number. We'd get our magic paintbrush out or our magic finger, and we would write letters in the air. So, writing, it doesn't always have to be with a traditional pen and paper. So they were using their arms in big movements to create those letters that we would talk about. And then we have something called Bring the Journal Outside. Very simple, right? Just bring the journal outside and let them move around and figure out a good place for them to sit and where they want to write and how they want to write, rather than always writing at a table. And then we have finger warm-ups. This is really fun to get the kids ready for a new activity and to strengthen their fingers and their fine motor skills. So you have them put all their fingers together, and then they flatten their hand, and then they raise their hand again, and then they flatten their hand again. This warms up their muscles and gets them really excited. They love doing this activity, and it also helps with their dexterity as well. And then additionally, we can bring chalk, paint, or water outside, and as well as support our children with different activities outside that use those gross motor skills. You can see bringing the rolling pin with water. She's really working that arm muscle, and with the hose down here, she's bending down. So you can see all the different ways she's moving that she probably wouldn't typically move if she didn't have those materials or props. And then we don't want to forget to encourage the children to stand while they write also on an easel or a whiteboard, so they can work on their fine motor skills. And it's easier for them to start on a flat surface on the wall than to write on a desk anyway. So those are some different activities for emergent writing that you can include that also adds a physical element to your activity.
Thank you, Stephanie, for teaching us those great skills and techniques that we can use in the classroom and in the playground to help children make those literacy connections stronger in their minds. So now let's take a look at math and movement. So we want to make learning numbers active. The skills we're going to be looking at here is number sense and number operations. This first idea is called a number jump. It's saran wrap that is taped to the floor, and you can put the numbers in order, you can even put them out of order. You can encourage the children to even plan this out with you. And then you can have them jump to a certain number, or you can have, as the year progresses, you can even say, hey, what happens if I say 1 plus 2, and then see if the child is able to jump to 3. And you can have them jump backwards, and that's how they learn that counting that 10 to 1. It's so many different skills that you can practice here in a safe manner. There's another idea called bowling for numbers, and this is a lot of fun. You can also encourage the parents to bring in bottles per child, and then every child can have their own pins and their own ball. And it's just very simple. You dry out the bottle, you write the numbers on them, and then as they bowl, then you can go back and help that child identify numbers. As you'll see here, you can either have the child identify the pins that stayed up or the pins that fell down. You can have them compare, did more pins fall down or did more pins stay up? There's another great idea too, it's called fishing for numbers. And this is so much fun. It brings the outside world into the classroom. You can incorporate so much vocabulary learning here. You can even bring in a story. And even though the children here are holding store-bought fishing rods, you can make this by yourself with the materials in the classroom. All you'll need is a long ruler, a yarn, and a magnet. So you'll tie the yarn to an end of the ruler and the magnet to the other end of the yarn. And when you put the fish, just put a paper clip on each fish that has numbers on them. And so as the children fish for the fish, you can ask them, what number did you fish out of the pond today? So you want to go ahead and use gross motor skills and fine motor skills as well to help them learn numbers. And a creative way to do that is through putting beads into each number, as you'll see in the next image that'll come up. And you want to go ahead and encourage the child to call them out as they do it, and then the numbers can increase as the year goes on. So now we're going to move to the next skill set, which is patterns and geometry. And there's so much patterns and geometry out in the world. You want them to come alive to children. So a great idea for this is a pattern walk. You could do this outside. As you see here, the child has 2 different colors, and you can just have them put their fingers or their hands or their footprints. And that's the day you'll ask for an extra change of clothing because it's going to get messy, but it's so much fun. You can also look for math patterns in nature. In the playground, you can have the children pick up different little stones or the different leaves, or if you have a flower garden, they can look at patterns. You can either make your own pattern for the children, or you can have the child make a pattern that you can mimic as they make it. Another great idea is the shape hop and skip, similar to the letter one. This one, you want to go ahead and ask the children, hey, what shapes should we draw? And let them lead you. And once you are able to draw the shapes with them, say, okay, now what happens if we skip? Or what happens if we hop? Or if we put 1 foot on this shape and 1 foot on another shape? And just encourage them to call out the different shapes. You can also have active shapes inside the classroom. All you really need for this is some painter's tape. And you could put it inside the classroom, all throughout the classroom, and as the children step on it, they can call out, hey, I'm on the square, or I'm on the heart. You can also connect these 2 skills. You can connect patterns and geometry. You can put the painter's tape and create the shapes again, and then have the children put those shapes inside the bigger shape and create a pattern out of those shapes. So it can get as creative as you would like it to be. The next skills that we're going to be looking at is spatial relations, measurement, and data. So you want this to come alive through active play. And a great tool to help with spatial relations is a hula hoop. Hula hoop gives you a lot of it gives you a great strategy to teach the children under, over, next to, on the right side and the left side, in front of, and it also helps the children learn their own personal space and versus the personal space of their friend next to them. Another great activity is called mirror mirror, and this is where one child would do a behavior or movement, and then the other child mirrors that same movement. This is also a great skill to teach them to keep their distance from each other, especially now with the COVID-19. We want to teach them these skills. And then you can also do active measurement games. As you see here in this image, the little girl is measuring the length of the arm using blocks. So she's using non-conventional measurement tools to measure the length of her arm. So her arm's length is 17 blocks. There's so many skills that are being practiced here. She's doing that one-to-one correspondence. She is identifying numbers. She's identifying a number line. And she's also having a lot of those social skills. Another way to do this, where they can do it on their own, is this is a great idea where you get them to color out their hand, a handprint, and then how many handprints does it take for my height? So then you place them on the ground, the child will lie next to it, and then you can say, well, for you it's 8, but for Johnny it's 10, or vice versa. And then another great way to show this to all the classroom is you connect them with yarn and you tape them against the wall. You can put them to shortest to highest, or you can have the children put them in a particular order, and you can use it to compare and contrast between their heights. So we hope that those were great ideas that you can take back to your classroom.
Thank you, Gretel. And now we're going to move on to some more general active games to get your children active. So we're going to transition to the strategies. And our first strategy that we have is, what are brain breaks? So we're going to show a video with Dr. Jean, who's going to not only tell us why we need our brain breaks, but give us some hands-on actual activities that you can do yourself while watching the video and you can do with your kids. And remember, this is a physical activity training, so please do the movements with Dr. Jean. And crossing the midline is really great for connecting the left and right part of their brain. All right, so that was Dr. Jean explaining some different brain breaks for us and the reasons behind it. I hope that you found some new ones that you could take back with you into your classroom. Next, we're going to talk about transitions. And then there's many ideas that can make more movement into your transitions. So we saw in the video with the skating, with the paper plates, for example. So we want our transitions that can be fun, they keep the day flowing, and it's adding movement without changing your schedule. So you're enhancing your schedule and physical activity throughout the day, but not changing your schedule. And a great idea to have movement cards. and just let a child choose how they should move to the next activity, such as hopping, tiptoe, swimming through the water. And there's many different songs that come with different motions that you could also add into your transitions. But as simple as having them choose and decide which ways they can move to another activity will really add that increased physicality into their day. Next, we're going to talk about yoga. Yoga is something I used to do with my children all the time. We had letter cards, yoga cards that look similar to this right here. We'd cut them out and the children would be in all these different poses and we'd give them choice. They could choose 3 poses they'd like to do in the morning meeting before we began our circle time. And it really helped my children focus and concentrate. It's also a great way for children to release energy in a really small, tight space. They get a better sense of their body awareness, and it also increases their strength and their flexibility. And we all remember how great we felt when we stretched at the beginning of this webinar. So definitely adding a little bit of yoga to part of your day will give a lot of different benefits to your children.
Oh, those rainy days, especially here in South Florida, aren't we? So let's look at this. The sun did not shine. It was too wet to play. So we sat in the house. Oh, that cold, cold, wet day. Now you probably recognize this image. This is the first page from the book, The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. And we've seen the same sad faces on our kids in the VPK classroom when it's a rainy day. What a conundrum. What should we do on this rainy day? So we want to take a look at the do's and don'ts of a rainy day. So the first thing you want to do is be prepared. You want to have maybe a box with equipment and material and things that you could do inside the classroom. Have already a plan. So don't forget to plan, especially if it might be that you might be out and you'll have to have a substitute in the classroom. You want to have a plan for that person that's going to come in and teach your class. Secondly, you want to be safe. The classroom is very different in comparison to the playground. So just like they talked in the video at the beginning of the webinar, there is space in the classroom. You probably just have to move some furniture, move the rug, and just keep in mind those proactive safety measures. Don't break the routine. The routine of the day is already going to be different because it is a rainy day. So if you take away their playground time and convert that into something else, that's already breaking their routine double. You want to go ahead and integrate other domains. So if that day you're learning a specific number, a specific concept, or there was a great book that the children gravitated to, go ahead and integrate that into whatever activity you're going to do indoors. And don't use inactive activity in lieu of an active activity. The children need to be able to get those wiggles out. Be enthusiastic. It's already a hard day. It's rainy. They probably got wet. You're probably not feeling so great yourself. But just take a moment to breathe and say, you know what? Rain is actually really good. It's very good for the environment. We're going to have fun. Don't say things like, oh, too bad, playground time is canceled. Because this is the one time of the day that most of the children are really looking forward to. In my case, PE was my favorite subject all through my life, and I wish I still continued it. But most children do look forward to their playground time. So what activities can you do in the classroom that can be in lieu of that, of the playground time on a rainy day? Let's take a look at this. This is an obstacle course. Look how much fun the children are having with very simple material. Then you'll see the next image that they'll come in, another idea of how to do an obstacle course inside the classroom by using the same materials that you would have used out on the playground. The object of this is for her to jump into the 3 circles and go through the tunnel and then out, and there's probably more to this course. This one is integrating that other learning domain, the literacy, and there's also even obstacle courses out in the playground. So this one with the literacy, the child goes through the tunnel, and then maybe you'll tell them, get the the letter of your first name or get the letter of your last name. And then this particular one is in the playground. And I love how they're giving them specific instruction, and then you can help every child go one at a time, and they can learn also self-regulation skills through this skill. Another great idea is maybe using integrating all the different materials that you may already have, like your classroom rugs. You can have the children even tell you, okay, from this end to this end, what do you want to do? And maybe the child could say, I want to roll, I want to hop, or I want to tippy toe, and you can give them different ideas as well. Another great strategy to do on rainy days is the parachute. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the parachute. Using parachute is another great way to bring that playground inside the classroom. And then this activity also allows the children to use their gross motor as well as their fine motor skills in a safe manner. You can use it through follow along songs, or you could put videos that can give you different ideas, making the mushroom and having the children run under, singing along to maybe nursery songs or particular songs that your children enjoy. Another great idea is that you can incorporate softballs, cotton balls, pom-poms, or balloons and bean bags that they can make bounce off the parachute and then go running to get them and put them back in and try it again. So these two strategies are a great way of incorporating that playground inside the classroom.
Thank you, Gretel. Those are awesome ideas. And I think any child would have a wonderful day, even if it's raining, if they use some of those ideas. So now we're going to review just some of the materials that we discussed in our presentation today, sort of as like a recommended toolkit. You can notice that we spoke a lot about chalk and using painter's tape. They make these great plastic circle spots that children can stand on. We have hula hoops and cones, which are great not only for barrier and paths, but you can make up games with the cones, go touch the pink, yellow, and blue cone and come back and start pattern making that way. In addition to these materials, you can also have some more gross motor materials. You want to have an assortment of balls and some way for the children to balance, whether it's on painter's tape or even on a rope. And getting a tunnel is really beneficial. It gets the children crawling, uses both sides of their brain, and it's very easy to fold those up. They don't take up much space. And then to get creative with our movement, we also have some ribbon wands and some rainbow rings and bean bags. And bean bags are great because they come with a material that you can write different letters or different numbers on them or different shapes, depending whatever skills that you want to work on and utilize them into the activity. But let's be real, if we don't have the budget for all that, we can make it ourselves. All you need is some painter's tape, some paper plates, a good Sharpie, maybe some streamers and some construction paper and your creativity, and you'll be able to make activities that are just as fun as the ones that would use different materials if you have them available. So now as we wrap up and reflect on what we've talked about today, we are going to talk about some questions to consider as you apply this to your classroom. First, you want to ask yourself where are there different places in the schedule to ensure that there's intentional movement daily. And then we have to think about the what. Movement activities can add to your literacy, math, science, and other domains while lesson planning. So that's the what, why, and the why is sitting does not equal learning. So we want to keep in mind that children learn through their experiences. So we want to keep all those things in mind when we are adding new activities to our repertoire. And then we also have this great reflection cycle here. So we're going to start with our goals. You use movement to enhance cognitive function and learning. That's our goal. How do we accomplish this? Through planning activities along with the standards and considering when and where to use this movement. And then also getting feedback and using that feedback, because students can give you in the moment feedback on assessment and understanding using movement. So if you say jump to the letter A and they jump to the letter N, you know that they have some letter recognition work that they need to work on with you. So in lieu of time, we do not have time to take a tour of the standards, but we recommend you going online and checking them out on the website. They're very easy to manage and they're very user friendly. So I really suggest that you go onto the website and play around there. There's also a lot of great resources as well. And it's not as intimidating as that very large binder that is sitting in your classroom. All right, and just to review again, remember this is for in-service hours only, this training, and you will get your certificate within 24 hours, emailed to the email address that you used to register. And then after completion of this training, there will be a post-test of 3 questions and a training evaluation of 5 questions that we please ask that you fill out before you leave today. So let's not forget to take a little self-care before we go. So taking breathing breaks throughout the day is important for you as well as the children. So we're going to take a moment to have a quick breathing break. Don't worry, me and Gretel are going to do it with you. All right. So how do you feel after taking 2 minutes for yourself for some slow, deep breathing? How do you feel now? You can put it in the chat box if you'd like, or the questions box. Oh, someone really enjoyed it, said it was awesome. That's great to hear. It's important to remember the self-care. We forget even to take those quick breaths. Oh, we're feeling great. So relaxed, excellent. And that's why we wanted you to feel leaving this training today, calm and relaxed and ready to move on to your next adventure for the day. So in conclusion, We just want to make sure that you have our contact information. You can take a picture of it with your cell phone. There's also the training question email address right here too, in case you have any questions. And Gretel and I would love to hear any feedback about any of these activities that you put into place. Send us pictures, send us little stories. We would love to see how enhancing physical activity in your day has affected your teaching. So please, if you have any great success stories or even the flops, send them our way. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer and guide you through them as well. And then, of course, we just want to share our resources with you. These are the resources that we utilize to put together the webinar today. And I would like to really recommend the Early Childhood Videos YouTube channel, where we got that first video explaining encouraging physical activity in preschoolers. They have a plethora of wonderful videos on so many different subjects that are clear, concise, to the point. So I really recommend checking out that YouTube page if you frequent YouTube. And then finally, I would just like to say thank you so much for spending your Thursday afternoon with us. I'm so glad that we had so much positive feedback from you all. I appreciate all of your participation in our chat box as well as our activities today. And I really enjoyed this webinar with you all. Grail, do you have anything you'd like to finish up with?
Yes, I want to say, I want to piggyback on what you're saying. Thank you to everyone that logged in to see the webinar today. We hope that you're able to take some of these ideas and strategies and implement them in your classroom. And thank you all for your feedback in the chat box. And we will be getting back to those that ask for different things. So thank you so much. Thank you, Steph. Pleasure always working with you. And
Absolutely.
Good afternoon.
All right. Have a good afternoon to you as well, Gretel. And to our participants, we'll give you one more minute just in case you want to take down our information. I'll put that slide back up. And in the chat, in the questions link, I did put that first video of this stretching into the questions link, into the questions box. So you do have that link. So that at the beginning of the training, I did manage to put that link in. And
thank you. Yeah, that was one of our participants that asked for the link. Thank you, Steph.
Absolutely. So it is in there now. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time at one of our wonderful webinars. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, everybody.